Why do we do natural remedies?
For God's glory.
For God's glory, okay.
It works.
It works? That's a good reason. It works. Tell me another reason.
It's cheaper.
It's cheaper?
Help other people.
To help other people. Can it be an entering wedge?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It's a very effective entering wedge. General Conference Bulletin, 1902. Soon there'll be no work done in ministerial lines but medical missionary work. Soon there'll be no work done in ministerial lines but medical missionary work. If you don't know how to do medical missionary work, you will not be able to share the gospel. I don't care if you're a preacher, a doctor, a nurse, whatever, if you don't know medical missionary work. And I had a physician tell me one time, he said, well, I'm a medical missionary. I said, what do you do? He says, I pray with my patients. And I'd ask him to do, we do how-to classes at our church. And how-to classes are how to do whatever. It could be bread making, it could be ham radio, it could be coin collecting, it can be soil analysis, it can be just all kinds of stuff. And it's amazing the people from the community that come in.
Yes.
And so I asked this guy, I said, well, let me tell you how successful that is. So we're doing a how-to class one day. And this Alan Kennedy was there, and he was teaching us how to do soil analysis. More than just what the co-op does. We're talking a lot deeper soil analysis. And how to amend the soil where you don't have to amend it except for using alfalfa for 20 years. Now, isn't that cool? How would you like doing that? Not having to amend your soil for 20 years except putting alfalfa on it. Isn't that cool? And so Bob Gregory, and y'all would enjoy taking his class. He does a 1-week class. It's over in West Virginia. Bob used to be over in the West Coast, and he had a highfalutin job. He was one of the top 12 rose experts in the whole world. And what you would do, let's say you were a rose grower, some big rose company, you would send your soil sample to Bob, and Bob would analyze it and tell you how to amend your soil to have the best roses. Well, Bob became a Christian. And Bob decided to take that knowledge as a soil scientist and turn it into how to amend the soil for food. And he came up with a way that you could analyze the soil, amend it one time. Stuff you can get from the co-op. It's still organic, and all you have to do is put that on, and then whatever the square feet is of your farm, you grow that square feet, acres, whatever, you grow that much alfalfa. And you then cut the alfalfa and use it as manure. And then every so many years you'll move your garden over there to 1 year and grow it in the alfalfa patch and grow alfalfa in your regular farming patch or garden patch. Well, he had taught Alan Kennedy, and Alan was teaching us at the church, and we had all these people from the community coming in to do they'd analyze their soil. We'd send it off for it to be analyzed, and then we were figuring how much of the different amendments we needed. And so there's a person sitting there with Alan. They're going through the numbers, and then Alan was going to look at my numbers, see if I'd done them right. Then there's a lady sitting here, and she looked at me and she says, "You know what you're doing, don't you?" I said, "Pardon?" She said, "You know what you're doing, don't you?" I said, "No, ma'am, what you talking about?" She says, "You got me here, didn't you?" I said, "Pardon?" She says, "I would have never, and I grew up in this town, I would never set foot in this church. But you got me here, didn't you? You know what you're doing, don't you?" So these how-to classes are amazing of getting people in. I mean, we fill it up when we do ham radio classes and testing. We fill it up when we do all these classes. Well, the medical missionary work is a tool by which to touch people. It really is. Now, what tool would you say this is? And I'll give a tip. Girls, what tip is this? What are you going to be doing this morning? It's a French word. The douche. Yes, it's a French word, douche. And so this is a tremendous douche. That would feel. Look at her. Doesn't she look happy? I was telling the girls this morning, the best douche I ever had was in Venezuela, backing up to a waterfall that was a little more volume of this. Oh man, it felt so good with the water pouring against. Well, Kellogg, when he started working at this, see, hydrotherapy started really maturing in modern day around 1815, 13, 14 in there in Germany. And they started working on it. And the Germans they analyze stuff really well. And the Germans really started intensifying on the aspect of hydrotherapy. Then it came to America. It went to New York. Dr. Jackson was there, and that's where Elder White was up at Jackson's retreat, because Battle Creek had not matured yet well enough for him to go there. He was there for 3 months. Now, why did he go there for 3 months? Not just an 18-day stay, or a 10-day stay, or at the most a 30-day stay.
Because they wanted to get educated.
Well, they went there for effect. So our lifestyle centers today, Weimar, Uchi, Wildwood, Heartland, Lifestyle Centers of America, they've got these 18-day programs, 21-day programs, 10-day programs, 5-day programs, 3-day programs. And I understand that because I was at one of those as a director. It costs a lot of money. And people don't have the funds to stay there for 3 months. People don't have 3 months to take off from work. But there's a lifestyle center over in China. It's extremely effective in treating cancer. And you go there, you're there for 3 months. It's serious. Go there and get fixed. And get fixed and go back home and start working. And so, when they used to go to Battle Creek, or to Jackson's up in New York, they went for 2-3 months until they were fixed in a controlled environment. And then go back home and apply what you've learned. Well, Kellogg then started playing with hydrotherapy, and before he figured the douche out in plumbing, he would do something called a pail pour. A pail pour. And maybe we can do one of those today. Maybe you could do it to her. And a pail pour is where you take a pail of water, and Kellogg would take the patient and he would just pour the water on top of them. Or you would pour the water on top of them, depending on the effect. Hot, cold, warm, whatever. And then to get pressure, he would climb a step ladder and pour the water on the patient, and it hit them down on the floor as they were laying on the floor. And that would cause pressure. And then he came up with his plumbing aspect, and we'll look at some of that and how he was able to use the pressure doing this right. This is very, very effective and calming, and really works well. So let's look at some of these. I'll come over here and see if I can keep you from hollering. Nope, that ain't gonna work. I'll come up here. This is a good book. It's by Deal and Charles Thomas was at Loma Linda. Dr. Thomas was he was over the physical therapy department at Loma. Did you go to Loma Linda? Do you remember Thomas? Thomas is a very, very knowledgeable man. in hydrotherapy. Students that took massage therapy, hydrotherapy from him are very, very fortunate. Hydrotherapy for animals. See, we used to do hydrotherapy for people. And around 92, the intermediaries, insurance companies, the intermediaries quit paying us. They said it was too expensive. So guess what? If you're an animal, you can still get hydrotherapy. If you were, say, Secretariat, who remembers Secretariat? Yes. If you're a highfalutin horse in Louisville or Lexington, and you had a leg problem, you do hydrotherapy. Y'all probably know how to do hydrotherapy on a horse's ankle or leg or whatever. Very effective in veterinarian. Or if you're Roger Staubach or any of these highfalutin basketball players, football players, baseball players, they'll do hydrotherapy because it works. It works extremely well. So here's a dog taking some hydro. Dog's on the treadmill. What's the advantage of the water on the treadmill? Buoyancy, yes. It's that dog may be having some arthritis in the legs or hips, and so it's not using as much, but it is some buoyancy. There you go. Veterinarians use it. So that horse is getting some hydrotherapy. Here's some more hydro with the dogs. Now that looks like a fun career, doesn't it? Doing hydro with the animals?
No.
Now we're getting to people. And you don't have to use these highfalutin bars here. I used milk jugs. And so you start out with a milk jug full of water, and you're moving it in the water, and you're doing the different movements, and then you pour out water. The more water you pour out, the harder it is to push it down and to work the body. So just a milk jug hanging onto that works just as well as these little tools here. Now this is called an extremity whirlpool. Extremity whirlpool. Now this one, it's got a vibration from electrical in there that takes place. I forgot what that's called. I can't think of the name of it, but anyway. It's sending waves. Do y'all remember? Anyone of y'all remember what that's called? Anyway, it's sending waves through the water. Now this is a pool that's pushing water, and so you're walking against the current. So what I'd have the patients do is in the swimming pool. We had an Olympic-sized pool, and I would put them in the pool, and they would go around in a circle, and then stop, go the other way. Stop, go the other way. So you had the current, the water was moving with them, stop, then they were walking against the current, stop, walking against the current. So it puts some resistance against them. This pool makes water go towards you for resistance. This is more towards like a fever treatment that we'll talk about. Very effective. Fever treatments, Thomas said that a fever treatment would raise the white cell count 7-fold. I didn't believe it. So I had a nurses draw labs on just a bunch of different patients for different things we were using the fever treatments for. We drew a lab at the beginning of the treatment, at the end of the treatment, when we poured the ice water down their neck, and then we did it every 30 minutes for 6 hours. It peaked on every single patient, just as Thomas said, at 7-fold. 7 times. So whatever the white count was at the beginning of the treatment, it went up 7 times from whatever that initial number was. Thomas didn't give it how long it took, so we found it was 5 hours. Now, I didn't go past 6 hours, so I'm glad it was within 5 hours. But the question I had is, how long would it stay up? Well, the funding that I got, that I raised the money to do the treatments, I wanted to see how high it would go. So I didn't have the funding to keep doing it and monitoring it and see when it went down. Well, Harold Cherney, someone was speaking about Cherney. Do y'all know Cherney? Anybody know Harold Cherney? Dr. Harold Cherney. He was at Eden Valley, and he was a triple board certified. He was a surgeon, family practice, and emergency medicine. He did the labs daily and found it didn't come back until 3 days. 3 days. And where that bell curve was, I don't know. But it didn't come back to normal for 3 days. Doing some more therapy. Now this is a fomentation. And the inside part that has those little... This part here is the fomentation. And then this is the little outside case that protects the person from the heat here. That was. Can anyone tell me where this was developed? White Oak, Tennessee. He was a neighbor of ours, actually. I found out later on. My father told me. He says, "Oh, I knew that guy. He lived just down the road. He developed that in his basement in White Oak. He worked for the Chattanooga Lookouts. He was one of their sports medicine guys, and he got tired of using towels and came up with this. And this is, it has bentonite clay in here. And that's what's in there. The challenge with this, because it then became a company called Chattanooga Group. And if you let this dry out, it can crack and whatever. So it's best to keep it moist if you use it all the time. In therapy, we didn't take it out. But it's a great tool. Your physical therapist will use this. Some massage therapists will use it, your higher-end massage therapists, and also some chiropractors will use those. It's called a hydroculator pack. Hydroculator is the machine, and this is the pack that goes in it. This is one for the back. They make them for the shoulders and different ones.
Can that be used as a cold pack too?
No, a gel one would work better than this one, yes. This is more for a hot one. The bentonite doesn't hold the cold as well.
Those are kept in a thing of hot water constantly.
Yes.
To keep that.
If you take it out of the water, it dries and it destroys it. So you have to keep it in the hot water. Here's one for the knees, for the hands, shoulders. Okay, this is the one that we're familiar with, and this is the one that we're going to do here. And this is the one that y'all did, correct? Okay, now there's different ways of doing a fomentation to the chest. Now, did y'all do chest and back or just chest?
On Gracie, just the chest.
Okay, have you done chest and back? So you've done both. Excellent. Okay, so I need the girls to come help me. Yes.
Go, Brittany.
So, we need to do this modestly, so maybe you need to be on the table. You got a little shorter skirt there. So, we're going to do both the chest and the back. And well, let's first show the chest. It's easier to do just the chest. Here's you some blankets. You want to use that towel, or do you want to use these bigger towels?
Bigger one.
Bigger one? Okay. There you go. So we'll do the chest first. And then here's your ice water and your washcloth for the cold mitten friction. And, or if you want to do, we'll show both. And then we got to have blankets. So what we're doing is we're doing hot and cold. And the hot is a vasodilator, and the cold is a vasoconstrictor. So you open up the vessels, soaks in more blood. You squeeze the vessels out, and it squeezes the blood out. Open, close. Perfect health is perfect circulation. That's right. And so we're taking advantage. I tell you what, here you go. You can put that under her head, and I'll get you another one. Make her comfortable. Okay, here's your blanket to use at the end. Okay, so, you need another blanket, another towel for a barrier towel.
Walt, that quotation heard from you 20 years ago or more
What's that?
in Bloomfield.
Yes?
I heard you say perfect perfect circulation is
Perfect health is perfect circulation. Yes, it's the truth. Now, how do you heat up your towel?
You can do it in a microwave or you can steam it in a pot.
Now, which is easier?
Microwave.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't have a microwave, so we use a double boil.
Okay, so I had a microwave. I learned that microwaves are bad, so I got rid of it. And then I go, wait a minute, what am I going to use for doing hydrotherapy? So I had to get me another microwave. It's a whole lot easier because then to boil water and take tongs and pull it out and try to squeeze it enough. It's hot. It's boiling hot. And so a microwave works a lot better. And here's how you do it in the microwave. We'll do it. Here you go. So you take your towel like this.
Go, Brittany.
All right.
Gracie, stay warm.
You stick your towel down in your hot water, not plumb boiling because you got to take your hands, and you wring it a little, but not plumb, because you don't want to get all the water out. And then I'll stick it in a Walmart bag or a Hugo's bag and stick it in the microwave. And then I pull it back out, and then you can put it on the patient.
How long do you have to put in the microwave?
Usually it's around 3 minutes. It depends on how hot your machine is and how thick the towel, whatever. Yes. So why did you put the barrier towel?
What?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's look at what we have here. We've got, here's the barrier towel. Why do we have a barrier towel? Yeah, we don't want to burn her. And then here's the one that has the hot. And now why are you putting these on top? To keep the heat in, yes. And so, now what's this?
Ice.
Ice, yeah, you want to keep that brain good and cool. Yeah. And so how long are you doing this?
3 minutes.
3 minutes, yeah. And so after 3 minutes, what do you do?
Then you frisk him down for 30 seconds.
Okay, let's see what we're doing. Go ahead and do it. So there's a couple ways you can do it. You can do what's called a cold mitten. What?
Friction.
Friction. Or you can just put an ice cold. So when would you not do the cold mitten friction?
If they have heart problems.
Okay. Or if they're injured, there's a wound or something, you don't want to go rubbing a wound. And so you leave it on for 3 minutes. Now what you going to do?
You do 30 seconds cold.
Okay, take this off. Okay, and pretend. Okay, real fast. Yeah, okay. And then what are you going to do? You're going to dry it off. Because you want it dry, because you're putting hot on there, you could have some steam issues. Going back to firefighting, steam issues. Okay, or if you have cardiac issues, as you said, then how would you do this?
Is it cold?
That's ice cold. So you're going to put that, no, take this and off. Okay, this is the cold one. So you're not doing the cold mitten friction, you're just doing the cold, yes, just like that. And so that's going to cause then vasal constriction. Yes, and so the cold mitten friction is for 30 seconds. Now I do it for 15 seconds. So I'll do it for 15 seconds, put it back in the water, another 15 seconds because I like it good and cold. This one you do for a minute. And then dry them off. Now you're going to do what? Okay, go ahead again. Now she's going to do then another set of how long?
Hot. 3 minutes.
3 minutes, yeah. So it's 3 minutes hot, 1 minute cold. 3 minutes hot, 1 minute cold. And then let's say we were done. How many times do you do it?
3 to 5.
3 to 5?
Times.
3 to 5 times. I do it 7. But most people do it 3 to 5. I like the number 7. And so the more I do it, the better it does. So however many times you do it. So, okay, so we've done our last 3 minutes. And then what do we do? We're done doing this treatment. What are you going to do now?
End with cold.
You're going to end with cold. Yes, you're going to end with cold. And it's also good to let the patient just rest a while. Thomas would have him rest for 2 hours. 2 hours. Okay? Now, we talked about yesterday, you've already answered the question, what do you do at the beginning before you start? You pray, yeah, because you're not doing it. God's doing it. Yeah, this isn't doing it. God's doing it. But you got to do it in order for the natural remedies to work. Now, yes, God can just plumb heal. But why doesn't God do the miracles today that He did before? There's a reason. It's an inspiration. Why does God use natural remedies today instead of just healing people? Inspiration says, in the end, God will use natural remedies to show the difference between Him and Satan, because Satan is going to be healing. Can Satan put an illness on and take it away? And so to show that we're His workers and to give glory to Him, and then have an opening wedge that you can then say, listen, would you like to know more about how Jesus heals? And then you can go in the Bible and start going through those different miracles that Jesus did and how He healed in the Bible. And any religion, any Christian religion is glad to sit down and talk about how Jesus healed. And maybe even other religions. So it's an entering wedge. It's a way to differentiate between Satan's work in the end and God's work in the end, according to inspiration. Okay, let's do another one. This time we're going to do a revulsive treatment. That's hot. That's the front and the back. Now,
I have a question.
yes.
So for that, you do this kind when you have a fever?
You can use it for a fever. It's especially good for any lung issue. It's extremely good for COVID. It's good for pneumonia. Excellent for pneumonia. I have a physician friend down he was in Atlanta, Georgia. Had a huge practice in Atlanta, and his wife was in the hospital with significant, very serious pneumonia. The hospital staff did not think she would live. And he says, I want to do hot and cold fomentations, just as what you just saw. He's a doctor. They let him do it, and guess what? She lived. Yeah, they were impressed. Yeah, that very simple treatment she just did. The hospital, with all their drugs, they said she was going to die with pneumonia. And he did that simple water treatment, and she lived. What a testimony to that hospital in Atlanta. There's a big hospital in Atlanta. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, let's see here. Let's use this one for her feet. So we're going to put hot water in this one. Oh, we got two of them. Good. We're going to put not right now, but we put hot water in this. And then, so when you put the feet in it, this is important. Okay, let me come over here. So you're going to lift up here. Now, you put this here. Now, you're going to take her feet and hold the bottom of her feet and set them in there. There's a huge component here, and this is why ladies do ladies and men do men, unless it's spouses or family or whatever. The touching aspect is huge, especially with females. We're a little different. That's why the spouse works good for us men, because I'm just not one liking a man touch me. That's me. The hands-on touching is huge in healing. It's amazing how effective it is. So what she does is she takes the bottom of the feet and she puts them in there, and she's making sisters. Sisters. So by putting them in there, you're monitoring, is it too hot for them? You're gently putting the feet in there, that touching aspect. Okay, so during this whole treatment, this is called a revulsive treatment, and what she's doing is she's making sure during this whole time that water stays warm. So she may have to dip out and put more in to keep that temperature at a good warm temperature, just like a good bath hot water. Okay, now she's going to do both the front of the chest and the back of the chest. So now she's going to lean up.
Yay, yay. Walt?
Yes.
Just a tidbit. We did the same thing with the feet instead of water, getting the bed all wet and all of that. We did the same thing with the microwave towels, and it worked
Good.
very well.
Excellent.
Wrapped them up, and ride one around their feet, and then
That would work. Good idea. Good idea. And to keep the bed from getting wet, and I forgot to do that. I was going to use the garbage bags. I'll use a shower curtain. Shower curtain works very well. And if you don't have a shower curtain, you can use big garbage bags. But I like the shower curtain better because you can have some moisture go underneath one of the as you have multiple bags overlaying. So the shower curtain works really well, or just a big old piece of plastic. Okay, so we've got, what do we have here?
Bottom.
Okay, what's hot? This is hot.
This is dry.
Okay.
This is hot.
That's hot.
And this is.
Here's your barrier. Okay, great. She's going to lay her down. And now now she's doing the chest.
This is hot.
And that's hot. And then the barrier.
And this is the barrier.
Another barrier. And another barrier. Yeah. All right.
And if all patients were that good, it would walk.
Yes. Okay, great. And so she needs a watch for this. And so when does she start the watch?
She starts sweating.
On the bottom one. 3 minutes, 1 minute, 3 minutes, 1 minute, or 3 minutes, 30 seconds, 3 minutes, 30 seconds. So the bottom one is the first one you started. So you start the 3 minutes there. So when 3 minutes are up, it's time to change the one on the back. So what she does, put your arms on the outside. Okay, you'll pull this up. And then, that's it. And so she holds that top one. So takes this. Let's see here. Here's your cold mitten friction. Cold mitten friction, really fast, where she's doing it, for 30 seconds. And then she has enough. So it's good to have an extra person helping you. Bringing those hot towels. So then, there she goes. Now it's time to do this one. 3 minutes is up. Cold mitten friction. And then she dries it off because you don't want any moisture there causing steam issues. And she then does it again. There we go. And when she put that one on the bottom, she started the 3 minutes again. Now, in the meantime, she's going to, see how she's doing. She's going to check the water down there, make sure it's good and warm. She may even have a glass, a cup with a straw that she gives them a little sup of water that they keep well hydrated. And this is called a revulsive treatment. Okay, is that easy?
Cool.
Pardon?
That's cool.
Yeah, any questions on this one? This is
What is that one good for?
This is for the same thing. It's same thing. It's just better because you're getting the chest and the back. I remember one time, when people do mustard plasters, they only do the chest. And I said, Dr. Agatha, I'm just an old farm boy. I'm just trying to think. Okay, so what is the purpose of the mustard plaster? It's for the lungs. Okay. Well, what if we did it in the back? Because we're doing front and back here for the lungs. What if we did mustard plaster on the back also? She goes, that makes sense. Yeah, we could do mustard plaster on the chest and on the back and have double the effect. And so you're just getting double effect. You're attacking the front of the chest and the back of the chest. And go back into the influenza of the Spanish flu. This is the #1 treatment that the United States Army had that worked. It worked very well.
So what's the purpose of the feet?
Dilation.
On the,
You got vasoconstriction. You're keeping the brain good and and not hot. You're keeping it cool. And the vasodilation helps the blood to kind of come this way, and you have better blood flow this way. Yes. All right. Yes.
Would there be any benefit to taking like a cold rag, icy rag, and rubbing the arms once in a while?
On this treatment, I've never seen it done in this because we're basically after the lungs. Yeah. Now, there's one more thing we have to do. We already did that.
Finished.
Okay, so we're plumb finished with, we went and we took everything off,
She gets a,
cold on the feet. And so this is where Sister has fun, where she goes to the patient.
well, I'm already having fun.
She says she's already having fun. And so at the very end, you take and you come up here, and then you take this away, and you put this here, and then you set the feet down in the ice water, or you pour ice water on it. And you always finish hot and cold with cold. And so usually the folks enjoy doing that there. And the spouses usually enjoy doing the ice water, cold mitten friction to the spouses too. And sisters. Okay, we're good with this one. Okay, hop on up, Gas. Yes.
So one thing that we do
Yes.
get done,
Mhm.
you know, after everything's done, and she goes for her reaction time,
Yes.
you know, for resting,
Yes.
I will put
That's a great idea.
you know, it's very dilated,
Mm-hmm.
everything's very open there, and then we just put it all over her, you know, neck, chest.
Great idea. And for the camera that didn't hear, what they do is they'll put eucalyptus on here, like Vicks or something.
Or just
Eucalyptus, right. And remember us using Vicks on the chest? That's why it worked. It was the eucalyptus. And so she puts eucalyptus. Great idea. We teach each other. Isn't it cool? All right. So there's that treatment. So this is called a hot and cold fomentation. When we're doing it like that, we call it a revulsive treatment. Yeah, very effective. Okay, let's see what the next one is.
So, excuse me.
Yes.
Those who have neuropathy,
Yes, good question. Excellent question. Thank you. If they have neuropathy, or if they have, say, wounds or whatever, then you don't go below 70 degrees in the cold, and you don't go above. Okay, textbook is 103, but I have actually blistered a foot at 103 with neuropathy. So I then changed it to 100, and I have not had any more blistering at 100. And textbook's 103, but go to 100. Tennessee state law used to be 104. Don't go above 104. Then they felt it was perfectly safe. Hydrotherapy textbook is 103, but I found it's better to go safe. And thank you for bringing that up. 100, no hotter than 100. Yes, on where you're putting the feet here. Okay, so what's the next one here? Okay, this is whirlpools, and whirlpools are very effective because you can have your warm water, but you've got the circulation, and the circulation is massaging. A larger whirlpool. Now this one is where you have water coming down, and the water is working like a massage, like the douche. And you can, excuse me, you can adjust the, where'd my water go? You can adjust the temperature, whether you're going hot, cold, with this, with these shower heads up here. You can adjust these here to whatever temperature you want. So you can lay your patient here. You've got the water coming down on them. It would be best if you can adjust. Oh, thank you, sir. If you can adjust these shower heads from your different flows to a more of a straight bore or a more of a spray, depending on what treatment you're wanting. And then you can also change the temperature so that you're getting that variance of temperature for the vasodilation, vasoconstriction. Just another tool that you can use. Another one, here's a fella that is in a, how did he arrive? And he's standing. I had a man come in. He was 572 pounds. He was significantly challenged in ambulating, walking. I had him in the pool a total of 2 hours a day. Not at once, but a total of 2 hours a day. Walking. He could not get the walking that he needed, but in the pool, because of buoyancy, he could do it. He came in on a Sunday in his Cadillac. He needed a big vehicle to haul him. And Friday, he disappeared. He didn't come to breakfast. He didn't come to morning worship. He didn't come to the morning meeting. And we were wondering, where'd this guy go? He was gone. We went to his room. He wasn't in the room. And he finally came back mid-morning. We said, where did you go? He said, I went to Walmart. Oh, no, he went to get food. Nope. That morning when he was leaning over to dress himself, where he was a preacher. And he couldn't reach his feet to tie his shoes, so he always wore bedroom slippers. Always. Meetings, preachers' meetings, wherever, church, whatever. He had to wear slippers because he couldn't tie his shoes. He was a single man. He could reach over and touch his shoes from sitting on the bed, his feet that morning. He could touch his feet sitting on the bed. He was so excited, went to Walmart and bought him a pair of lace-up shoes. He was excited. And that was only from, he just came in on Sunday, so his treatment didn't start until Monday morning. He did very well in the program. Got home. Quit doing it. And guess what happened? He died. We had two brother-in-laws come in. One was a podiatrist, a foot doctor. That's a medical doctor that is a foot doctor. His brother-in-law, who was a engineer, very successful engineer. Both were still working. They flew out of Ohio, flew into Reagan Airport. They were there for only 10 days. The podiatrist came in with diabetes. The engineer came in with heart disease. We were on the way back to Reagan Airport, and I asked the podiatrist, we're talking 10 days. I asked the podiatrist, are you still a diabetic? He was type 2. He goes, nope. Why aren't you still a diabetic? He goes, I have a normal blood sugar. I take no medication. He says, my blood sugar's totally stable all day long with no medication, that fast. I said, so what are you going to do? Do podiatrists see diabetics? I was like, yeah. He says, I'm going to teach all my patients how to do this. And I'm going to go home and I'm going to tell my wife what to eat. And if she doesn't do it, this is what I'm going to fix for myself. So I'd call, check on the patients. 6 months later, I was calling, checking on patients. And I wasn't able to get a hold of the brother-in-law. And I called him and I said, ask him how he's doing. He's doing very well. I had a normal A1C. A1C's every 3 months. So this is 6 months later. A1C's normal. Still a normal glucose, no medication, doing very well, teaching his patients. I said, how's your brother-in-law? He said he died. He died? He had a good improvement of cardiac while he was with us. Yep. He went home and he said, my sister, who was the wife, he said, my brother-in-law went home and said, this is what I got to start eating. He says, my sister said, that ain't what I cook in this house. I cook this way. She refused to change the diet. He died because he was doing what he was doing before. If you don't take the cause away, you don't take the disease away. To show you how effective lifestyle is for diabetes. Last time I was in Rwanda, I had a lady come in. Her blood sugar was, let's see, let me keep these two ladies. I'm going to share two different ones. Very similar. Both ladies were on insulin. Both ladies were on 2,000 milligrams of metformin. Both ladies were right up in the 300 level, their glucose, when they came in. One lady could barely, both ladies had a challenge ambulating. One came in with a walker, and the other one, I think, came in with a cane. In 14 days, just 14 days, one of the ladies, both ladies at 14 days were off their insulin, off of their metformin, One lady was at 124, her blood sugar, and one lady was at 115. Isn't it amazing? In just 14 days? And they're doing great still. So it works. It really does. Here's another one. Again, treadmill in the water. Here's another douche. Another douche. See these two different ones here? Do y'all speak French in your country? Okay, they do.
Does the douche come in hot and cold?
Yes, you can alternate it hot and cold. Yes. You can either do hot or cold or hot and cold. Either way, whatever you're looking for. If you're wanting to calm a person down, do it about 100 degrees, neutral, and that just calms the person down. It's very good for the nerves. Too hot excites the nerves. Too cold excites the nerves. Now this is the douches. And this is what Kellogg kind of came up with, these kind of guys. It looks like something military, doesn't it? There you go. Here they are. Put them in the shower over here, and they shoot across the room. We don't use those anymore. We use, you'll see a little later, a garden hose. Yes. 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 And you will actually see the demonstration this morning. The bigger the bore, the better. I like, a garden hose is nice. I like at least a 1-inch hose. So when we're in a lifestyle center, we'll have a device on the wall, like you saw on that one device where it had the showers over the bed. You can change the water temperature, and I like about a 1-inch hose. I was telling the girls this morning, this is an excellent douche, and I've been doing it for years. After a fire, I mean, you're just black. You got soot and stuff all over you. And we didn't wash our turnouts like we do today because we now know about cancer. And so we wash our turnouts more often. You're supposed to wash your turnouts after every structure fire. Well, so what you do is you stand there and someone takes the fire hose and they're washing your clothes off, your turnouts. But you're getting a douche at the time. You're getting that. It feels so good. Now, when you turn around, they pull the hose back a little bit, and they're not as hard on you. And so I was encouraging the girls because they know some firefighters, and they can put some turnouts on, go over the fire hall, and get and there you go. You can get each other back. And you take the fire hose to each other. But it really feels good, and so it's very good on the back. You can massage a person really well with that fire hose. But here we're just using the smaller volume of water. Here's a shower with multiple shower heads. How would you like to take a shower in that in the morning? Doesn't it look fun? I mean, that's going sides. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. So it's on the other side. So it's 12, then 13, 14. So you got them coming up from the bottom, coming down from the top.
That would be all the showers. There will be water shortage.
But that's a very good shower. And see, you can change that. So you'd put the patient in there, start out with warm, and then we'll come down to cold. And then we come back up to warm.
They can't escape.
Yes. Yeah, we didn't have a door on there. We should have had a door on there.
Are these bought, or you just have to build it?
You have to build it. You have to build it. Now, let me give you warning again. Cardiac. Don't drop the water temperature below 80. We had a patient go into angina one time because the therapist just wasn't cautious and cranked it down to cold. The water temperature around 55. So be cautious on cardiacs. That you could cause some problems. Do you remember these saunas? Yeah. Especially those. Remember those? Yeah, those are back in. Remember the old movies years ago, and the guys, the fat guys in the saunas would sit in there with a cigar hanging out their mouth. Remember those days? Those saunas are very effective. They really are. A little older. A A little older. And now we're into the older saunas. Check those out. And there's some metal ones.
Those docks.
Yeah, they do, don't they? Okay, girls, I need you again. Now, this is, you can, let's see here. I'll go up. Okay, who's the patient? Okay, you're the patient this time. Okay, so what you can do is the old way of doing this is you would take a pot of a pot, and you would take rocks, hot rocks out of a fire, and put it in the pot, and you have water, and that would steam up the water, and they would have tongs that would pull out the rocks and put more more rocks in there, and keep heating them up, and that's how they heated it. And then as time went on, they would take an electric eye, you know those single electric eyes that you use for cooking? It's a little smaller than this, and it's got an electric eye, and you can put a pot on it. You know what I'm talking about. Electric burner. Oh, y'all call it a burner, not an eye. Okay, electric burner. Okay, and you put that under there, and you put your pot on there, and you heat it up, and it boils the water and causes steam. Well, sometimes people were a little careless, and they'd turn over, and you'd see little burn things on the floor in the therapy room. And so now they have these Walmart had them, and I'm sure other ones did. They made them for Walmart. But it's a steam kettle that has an electric piece in the bottom. And plug it in. Yes. And so you can sit it. It looks like a teapot. You plug it in, and you sit that under it, and that will make steam. That's my favorite now. So if you're out doing medical missionary work, going to someone's house that needs some a steam treatment like this, it's not a problem. You can do it. All you're doing is you're taking several pieces of tools. You're taking your Instapot. You put that on the floor underneath. It's better to use a plastic chair instead of a metal chair. You're going to heat their seat up a little bit. And the water's not good. So a plastic chair works good. You would not use it on this chair here, but it's a nice chair. But you'd use it on, yes, one of those plastic chairs. And the steam would come up around. And then, if you can step up just a minute. So what we're going to do to protect her legs from the heat, we don't want it all the way around because we want steam coming around, but we want to protect her legs. And so, okay, go ahead. So we have the towel there it's going to kind of protect her a little bit because she's sitting on that plastic chair, but it's protecting the back of her legs from that steam. But we don't want it over here because we want the steam coming up. The next thing we do is the old way of doing it is we take sheets, blankets, whatever, and you're going to wrap this around her, just plumb around her. So let's plumb open it up. Let's see, the lengthwise. Like this. And so you can use a blanket like that, or I like a little easier to put a sheet around them first and then put the blanket. Now you want to take a towel, put it around her neck. That way we're keeping that heat in there. And that's for her head. There you go. And you can do the same thing with this. Now, is that easy? Now, if you want it even easier, is you take a piece of plastic with a high mil. You know what I mean by high mil? Thick plastic. And you make a poncho. And so you have a piece of plastic that will lay plumb. You cut a hole in it in the middle. You set it down. It goes around her neck. And it totally goes to the floor. You can get black. The patient likes black. I like clear because I like to see what's going on with the skin. You observing. Black you can't, in this you can't see what's going on. Is it getting, you can observe better. Whatever you choose to use. And that way, And then you can, and that holds the heat in, holds the steam in, and you're not getting your blankets and all that dirty. And then you put the towel still around the neck, still use the washcloth, and you do this treatment. Now you can do this treatment for just only this treatment. But let's say that you're wanting to do hot and cold. I had a guy that came in. You know what PPGs are? I think it's PPGs. Maybe it's wrong. It's the chemical that's in transformers up on the power pole. Do y'all know what that is? Maybe I'm wrong on what it is. Pardon? Anyway, it's a chemical that's in there that's very toxic. And I had a man come in. He was 55 years of age, but he looked like he was in his high 80s, 90s. I mean, he looked really old. And he was poisoned by this chemical. He worked in the plant that produced this chemical. So we're trying to figure out how to get his levels down in his body. So what we did is we put him in one of these. Well, not one of them, but a little nicer looking one. We put him in the one that boy was in. But you could do it with this right here. And so we put him in a shower first, a hot shower, which is vasodilating, opened up the pores, hot water. Then we did this for 18 minutes. Then we put him back into the shower for 2 minutes and then went cold for 30 seconds. Then we went back over here, put him in here for 12 minutes. Back into the shower, hot for 2 minutes, cold for 30 seconds. Back over here for 8 minutes. Back over here, put him back in the shower for 2 minutes, and then we turned it plumb cold. Your patient will be able, as you do this, at first if you went plumb cold, they're going to holler. But as they get used to it, you can go colder, colder, colder. We did this every day. We drew his labs. We sent it to Texas. At that time, it was the top lab in the United States for measuring toxins in the body. And we were able to watch those labs come down. And I called Dr. Laster, who was the medical director of the lab, and I said, Dr. Laster, this is the chemical we have. This is our procedure. Is there anything else you know better that we can bring these levels down? He said, Walt, that's the best thing we've heard of. Is that's the best treatment we've heard people use in the past. He said, keep doing it. And it worked very well of bringing those numbers in. And so what happened is in here, the chemical came out of the fat cells into the blood. And then through urination, through sweating, we were able to very effectively, and then it would go back in the fat cells, come back out by going back and forth. We were constantly pumping that out of the fat cells through the hydrotherapy to get that chemical out. So it works very well. You can use, if a person's feeling sick, you can do this. This will increase the white cell count to help fight whatever you're dealing with. All right, thank you.
And now when these patients, when you're going to their home, your dress is pretty much like a bathing suit.
Thank you, yes. Yes.
Or underwear.
Yes. Bathing suit, underwear is probably the best. And then when you're finished, again, have them go sleep. You can actually, they finish with a cold shower, then put them in bed. And Thomas, he found the best results at Loma Linda by putting them in there and having them sleep for 2 hours. That's what he found. He found a huge disparity between finish a treatment and let them go and having them sleep for 2 hours as he measured the labs.
That chemical, maybe it's pentachlorophenol.
I don't.
It's penta or.
What's the initials?
And then they have penta, and then creosote, arsenate, copper-chromium, arsenate, and CCA.
Okay, it's whatever's the chemical in the. No, it's not on the pole. It's in the transformers. It's the liquid in the transformer. Okay, so we got those. This one is a fever treatment, and fever treatments are super, super effective. Okay, you ready again? I'm going to wear y'all out. Okay, so let's see here. this might be easier. I don't know if you can sit, kind of put your legs here and sit in here. Is that up? Can one of y'all do that? PCBs, that's it. PCBs. Okay, good. Okay, so on a fever treatment, this is extremely good for cancer. Extremely good for cancer. I went to Tijuana to learn. There's several cancer centers in Tijuana because they can't do it here in America. They can do it in Tijuana. And I went to a hospital there. This was actually a hospital. And the physician that owned the hospital, he had this special treatment that people from all over would go to reverse cancer. And so he was telling me his protocol, and actually it came out of Hinsdale. Our hospital in Hinsdale is where the treatment came out of. So they had to give them this drug that would raise their temperature up to between 102 and 104. Well, he said that could be difficult, and so because of this, he said they had to put him into ICU because of the danger of the drug he was using. And so they put him into ICU during the treatment, and they would give him a drug, and I don't remember the drugs, what they were. And that would run the body temperature up to, it would make the body have a temperature up to 102 to 104. If it went over 104, he'd have to give another drug to bring it back down. He was going back and forth between drugs to keep their temperature between 102 and 104 for 30 minutes. And then once 30 minutes is over, he then would send them back to their patient room. And the guy, and I said, why don't you do hydrotherapy, a fever treatment? And he looked at me and he said, you're a Seventh-day Adventist, aren't you? I said, yes, sir. How did you know? He says, because y'all do those. And I said, is there any effect different in what you're doing in a fever treatment? He said, no. I said, then why don't you do a fever treatment? He says, it's too labor intensive. I think he could put him in ICU and charge a whole bunch of money. But anyway, anybody can do a fever treatment pretty well. You don't have to go to Tijuana and go into ICU. You can do that in your own house. So anyway, this is very, very effective. So the first thing, what's the first thing? Well, no, there's something before this. No, before praying, tell them to go to the bathroom. They might need to go to the bathroom. And so you send them to the bathroom, they come, then you pray. And the water is 105, 106 degrees. Some people will put them in a hot shower first to speed up the process. And then you put them down in the water. Clothing is important. Clothing is important. I like using a hospital gown because you want it to come off easily. A lot of folks will get in it with a bathing suit, but at the end of this treatment, you don't feel like bending over, whatever. You're exhausted. And so a hospital gown, I like a hospital gown to provide the privacy. Again, ladies, men, unless it's a spouse or family, their mother taking care of the little boy or whatever. So you put them in there, and you have a stopwatch. So we need something for her head. Okay? Now, here's the problem. Yes?
There are going to be times if you're really doing it faithfully that you may have to do it on either sex.
If you have what now?
There are going to be times if you're really faithful that you may have to do it on either sex.
As
a medical missionary.
Yes, there is times there's times you have to work on a male patient, and there's times I have to work on a female patient. There's times I have to do CPR on a female. Sometimes you got to do it in healthcare. Okay, so here's the problem. You got a long person, their legs won't do that. Try sitting in your bathtub. Will your legs go straight? If the goal is, and I'm showing you sitting up, you have a choice of the patient sitting up like this or laying down like this. And I'm having her do this because of just comfort for her. But you're usually doing this. So if she's sitting up like this, you need her hot up here. So you want to take a towel and put it up around her neck and down her chest. Now what does that do? It wicks. So now during this treatment, you can take a pitcher and keep pouring it over her chest. I prefer going down like this. This is an option, but for her comfort level, they can do this, but let's pretend. So go ahead and bend your legs up. There you go. And pull the chair this way. And then let's take another towel, put it over her legs. Do you see what's happening? I prefer them down. I want that chest, I want the neck, I want them down in the water here. And I find it's a little bit better if I can have them leaning down like in the water here and their knees up right here, put the towel here and pouring the water over this throughout the treatment. But you want the body from the neck down to be hot. Yes, you want the vasodilation from here down. Yes, immersed. Yes. Every 5 minutes. So at the beginning, before you start, you're going to take some vitals. You're going to take their blood pressure. You're going to take their pulse. And I like also using an O2 sat, a pulse ox, and checking their O2 sat. And most people have a pulse ox now because of COVID. And you want to monitor the O2 saturation. We found that the O2 sat can drop in this process 92, 93. Now, it's not terrible awful, but it can. Why? Because you're under the water, the chest is under the water, it's hot, and they just don't breathe as deep and they don't breathe as much. They have more shallow breathing. So the O2 sat will drop. So what you can do, there's some lifestyle centers. One of y'all went to Wildwood, right? Was it you? At Wildwood, they would use oxygen, put them on a nasal cannula and run 3 liters. You don't have to do that. All you have to do, and we found it worked just as effective because we were monitoring the O2 sat, is just every couple minutes have them take some deep breaths. Now, did you do hydrotherapy also or just massage? Hydrotherapy also? Okay, good. Excellent. So did you do the fever treatment? Okay. I was just curious if they were still doing the nasal cannula. So all you do is every couple minutes just have them take a nice couple deep breaths, and that will keep the oxygen saturation up. Also, every 5 minutes now, you're checking their pulse. If they can't, yes.
Sitting up every once in a while.
Yes, it can. So if they're a patient and they come into it with hypertension, be cautious, because this process can raise blood pressure. What if you're going, now you do this process, once the oral temp is 102, you stay there for 30 minutes. But what happens if their nerves are going nuts? And they say, I can't handle this anymore. And you say, but Walt said you had to do it for 30 minutes. Stay there. You know? No. Bob Jorgensen he was doing a camp meeting one time, and this guy comes in, and the people were coming, like y'all, and one of their family members had cancer. And the doctor said, you're just going to have to go home and die. There's nothing else we can do for you. And he had gone home to die. And he was sleeping on a sleeping bag on the floor in a tent at the camp meeting. So Bob heard about it, went and started doing fever treatments on this man. This is how effective this thing is. The first fever treatment, Bob said, 5 minutes. The man goes, I can't do it anymore. His vital force was so low. Vital force, Mrs. White talks about vital force. It's not that weird New Age energy stuff. It's the vital force, what we have. It was so low, Bob said, I could only do it for 5 minutes. He couldn't tolerate it anymore. Now for me, I can't do this without taking B complex ahead of time. Because when I was 16, I had a motorcycle accident. Now, I have something called Tourette's. You haven't seen it, have you? But I have Tourette's. I manage the Tourette's with B complex, lithium orotate, mostly, and sometimes I have to also use magnesium. Sometimes it's so bad that with stress, I'll have to add lavender and vetiver is an essential oil. Breathe it and it will calm me down. Sometimes I cannot even drive. My Tourette's is so bad. But you haven't noticed it this weekend, have you? Because I'm able to manage it. If you get your sleep, your water, lifestyle is so important. But if I don't follow lifestyle, this hand literally is doing this. I'm shaking. I'm literally babbling. I babble. That's how bad it is. I'm just blah, 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 blah. And Mary Lou go, let me get you some B complex, or let me get you some lavender and some vetiver, and it'll calm me down. So my nerves can't handle a fever treatment without taking B complex first. If I try it without a dose beforehand, I say, that's it, I'm out, I can't do it. So if the person has a history of nerve issues, give them some B complex, some lithium orotate, some magnesium, something to calm them down. Maybe even some chamomile work. It's just something to calm those nerves down. So you're doing every 5 minutes, you're checking if they have a history of hypertension or they came in with hypertension. Monitor that. If it starts going too high, stop the treatment. Stop the treatment. Yes, sir?
But doesn't a similar effect happen with the cold sheet treatment as well? Yep.
We're coming there. You're reading my mind. So what happens is you're monitoring the pulse. Is the pulse going to go up when they get a temperature? Yes. What if they get real tacky? Tachycardia. Now, who goes out and runs? Anybody goes out and runs? Any of y'all? Any of y'all run? Okay. A runner, what might their heart rate go up to? What? 120, 130. I've got a buddy of mine, he runs, he'll take it up to 140, sometimes 150. But he's very in shape. He's 51 years old, but he's extremely in shape. So, pulse going up on a situation like this is not totally unnormal. But here's something you can learn from. Yes, you'll learn. Because when I was in EMT school, my paramedic teacher, he taught me, he used this down in Florida. So, if they get real tacky, what you do, here you go, it's a bag of ice. Lay the bag of ice on her heart. So he picked up a patient's super tacky. This is back in the days before radios. We had the old dial things. Y'all work in EMS back years ago and you had the dial phones that you dialed ER and it then went through the radio and it had an encoder on it. And he calls the ER doc down in West Palm, says, I got a patient that's super tacky. What do you want me to do? He says, put ice on the heart. Pulls into a 7-Eleven, jumps out, grabs a bag of ice, jumps back in the ambulance, puts it on the heart, takes off to the hospital. Pulse came right down. Well, it will work in this treatment also. So if a patient starts getting kind of tacky and they're kind of worried, you just put a bag of ice on the heart right here, and that'll bring that pulse right down. So that's something you can do in the back of the truck. You put an ice pack, you got those packs, put that on the heart, that'll slow it right down. So you're doing this for a full 30 minutes. Every 5 minutes, checking their their oxygen saturation with the pulse ox. You're checking their pulse. You can check the pulse, but I like too many times people get into checking with instruments. And I see paramedics doing it really bad. They'll monitor, but they don't put their fingers on, what's going on here? Is it thready? Is it pounding? You can get an idea of feeling that pulse a lot more than just watching that machine. I know you can watch it move, but feeling, you can tell a lot in feeling. I've got a good friend, he's a German physician, and he's retired now, and he did something that I read in the old medical books. It was amazing. We got a call, I was at his house, got a young girl that had been stung by a bee, and she was unresponsive. We get to the scene, he's concerned. Here's a young girl, she's early 20s, she's unresponsive, and her skin color was a little light, and so he comes up, and I let Sam go up to her, and he starts checking, and he's checking the pulse here, he's checking the pulse here, he opens her mouth, he looks at the tongue, he goes, she's okay. I said, Sam, how did you know? He said, I could tell. He says, I could tell by feeling her pulses. And I remember reading the old medical textbooks talking about feeling certain pulses, and you could feel, and sure enough, the girl was fine. She did well. But he had learned that in Germany, how to feel that. I like feeling the pulses. And then at the end of the treatment, you're all finished. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take these things off.
Question.
Yes?
Now, in the case when you say that the person going to tachycardia, right?
They're getting anything over 100 is tachycardia.
Right.
Yes.
Now, is it better to, like, if they get nervous, should you stop the treatment and let things calm down? How do you proceed with that?
If they are too upset, yes. If you convince them to try using the ice, that's better. But if they say no, stop it. Because you won't get them back in there if they can't trust you. Okay, so let's go ahead and scoot her legs out. And this will be easier to show. Now here's the problem. At the end of this treatment, patients were prone to be a little woozy and they could fall going back to their room. And so we'd have a gait belt. Y'all know what a gait belt is. Put it around them. And the therapist would walk them back to the room. But one of our therapists, you can learn so much from therapists. Folks that are in the trenches, those in the trenches, they learn. And so one of the therapists tried something one day. So what she did is she had the patient, she had her ice water that she was dipping and changing this every 5 minutes on the head. She had the patient lean forward, and this is the fun part too, is she would pour the ice water down the back of the neck, down the spine. Now, we drew the lab at the beginning of the treatment. We drew the lab at the end of the treatment. Actually, the white cell count dropped in the treatment. And then we immediately, less than 30 seconds later, drew another one where we poured the ice water down the back of the neck, and boom, the white count was significantly higher already. That quick, just pouring the ice water down there. And what that did, it woke that person up, got some blood going to the brain, and then when we transported them to bed to sleep for 2 hours, they didn't have the problem of being weak and faint. Because see, you had vasoconstriction here, squeezing the blood out here. You had vasodilation here. And so they didn't have as much blood up to the head to think as well. And so this helped send some blood back up. I had a physician friend tell me it also made a hormone change going on that helped it also. And then you just drop the gown, the patient gown, in the shower. And if they can, I like having them take a shower, real quick shower with some cool water for the whole body. And then you can put another gown on them, send them to bed. But it's by this time she's really exhausted. And taking her swimsuit off and all that kind of stuff, she might fall. It's a lot easier just using a gown. Okay, any questions on the fever treatment? Thank you, ma'am. Very effective, increases the white cell count 7-fold for up to 3 days. It maxes at the 7-fold in 5 hours. Here are these. Notice they have these tarps on here to keep the heat in. These are fever treatments. Here's a fever treatment that the Navy is using on this man. Now look what happens here. This is very important. Very important. Underline it, put it in bold, put it in red.
Mummification.
Pardon?
Mummification.
Well, this is after the treatment. But they went and mummied him up. If you ever put a patient, other than on a bed, let's say on a massage table, if you mummy them up, look how neat they are. Look at that. That's old nursing. Remember how, I remember my old nurses when I first started. Boy, they made sure those nursing assistants, or what they were called, they weren't called CNAs back then. We didn't have CNA. It was called an orderly, and that they had to be just perfect, tucked in just right. The corners on the beds, they're strict. Never leave a patient.
I can't handle that.
Yeah, go.
I panic.
Claustrophobic, yes. I'm claustrophobic too. Never leave them, because they sleep for a couple hours, wake up, where am I? They start to get up and they fall, and now they break a hip. hit their head, subdural hematoma. So always stay with the patient. Never leave them in the room alone if you have them on a bed like this that they could fall off of easily. A normal bed's not a problem. Or if you mummy them up like this, like the sheet, where we're going to talk about in the cold sheet pack. Always go and stay with them. Okay, the wet sheet pack. Okay, y'all ready for the wet sheet pack? We use wet sheet packs for patients that are that can't sleep. I had a fellow one time, he had not slept for 5 days. And he was nuts. He was just begging us. He tried to go commit suicide and go in the lake. And he was just almost, he tore a room up and threw a light, and he was just, his brain was not working right. And he came to us that way. And so we did a wet sheet pack, and it put him to sleep. You can use a wet sheet pack. Mental hospitals will use a... have you worked with the wet sheet packs any in your field? In mental health? Mental hospitals will use wet sheet packs to calm mental patients down. So a wet sheet pack. Let me show you. Let's see here. We've got a sheet. Did you do wet sheet packs when you were at Uchi? Okay. Now, this is the same way to fold a salvage cover on the fire department. You do this. So I'll show you. Okay. And this could be how y'all did it. So what you do, did y'all fold it like this where you fold it to the middle? Okay, go ahead. Take your ends. You're going to fold it to the middle, one of them. Let's see, yeah. You fold it to the middle. Then you take this one and you fold it to the middle. And this is how you do a salvage cover when you're folding a salvage cover. Okay, now you're going to fold them together. Okay, now go ahead and roll it up like a Swiss roll. Exactly, just start rolling it that way. So what we've done is we've taken the sheet, come to the middle, come again, and roll it up. Now, then we're going to set it down in ice water. You're going to have the patient in as little of clothing as possible, just underwear. And the patient is going, so you have this ready, soaked in ice water. If you're putting it on a bed, you can use the shower curtain so that the bed doesn't get wet and messed up. You can put a, let's say you can put a blanket on here, a sheet or blanket on the bed. Let's go this way. Sorry. Okay. Then what you'll do is you and the patient can do this unless the patient is not doing well. But if you have someone to help you, so you'll take this and you'll kind of wring it out, but not plumb. You wring it out. Go ahead and roll it out down to here. Okay. Then, okay, you want to do this as quick as possible. Then you're going to grab it here and here, and then you're going to go out like a butterfly, like that. Okay? Then you have the patient get on there as quick as possible, because you want it as cold as possible. And then now you know what to do. And she's going to have that sheet touch this patient every bit of the body. It's going to be packed into the groin area. It's going to be packed under. Obviously, we can't do that, but you've got the patient totally packed. It's touching every piece of tissue there, under the arms, around the neck. Now, you want to kind of explain what you're doing here?
The arm gets left out for the first wrap. This one, the left arm.
And that way she gets it underneath and it's touching the skin. Now, this is ice cold. Is the patient going to be cold? Yes. At first they're going to be cold, but then they're going to warm up. Why? Blood's going to rush. Blood's going to rush to those outer tissues to warm up the body, and then it warms them up. And again, you don't leave the patient, because the patient, you're going to leave. How long did y'all leave your patients?
We just did it for like 5 minutes.
Okay. You can do it. You can leave the patient there for, an hour, 2 hours. 30 minutes is what y'all did. And you can just let that patient stay there and sleep, because you don't want to wake them up. You want them to sleep. And so the 30 minutes, hour, 2 hours is not a problem going that long. But you got to stay in the room with that patient. And it's remarkable how good of a treatment that is. Okay. I use it to put a patient to sleep. It's good for a patient that is just uncontrollable, just like a psych patient that's just, you can't calm them down. Nervousness, yes. It also is going to help with the immune system. Okay, I'm not... The next one is a salt glow. Did you learn salt glows? Okay. So what we did with the salt glow, did you do them Did you do them in the shower? Did you do them on the massage table? Okay. You can do a salt glow like this one on a massage table, or you can also do it in the shower. And in the shower, you let the patient do the areas that they can touch, that they can get to, and the areas the patient can't get to, you can do that area for them. And they're standing in the shower and they're doing the salt glow. I would have ladies come out of New York City, these highfalutin ladies that went from their highfalutin home apartments with air conditioning to their highfalutin cars with air conditioning to their highfalutin stores with air conditioning back to, and they never, what they called, perspired. They said, ladies don't perspire. I mean, it was total foreign to me. We talked about yesterday, why is it that our granddaddy, who ate hog jowl and chitlins and smoked, and he lived so long? Well, he worked on the farm, he exercised, the food he ate was not processed, he sweat, and so he got rid of those toxins. These ladies, I would say, if not every one, on average, I want to say every one of them, it would take 5 days of doing this treatment, whether you do it on the massage table, which we're going to demonstrate. We're going to demonstrate standing up and massage table, and to exfoliate that skin enough to where they started sweating. That's how clogged up they were. Okay, show them how to do a salt glow.
We just did it on the arm.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, you can do the whole body.
We just did it like practice.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you want to do, like here we're doing the whole body. That's, and some people like that, just they want to be pampered, and so you do it on the table like this, and that's okay. They can relax or whatever. But we did it mostly in the shower because we wanted them to exfoliate their whole body, and the therapist didn't feel like, they weren't comfortable exfoliating, because you don't do this with clothes on. And so you just let the patient do it. They can get the front area, and then if you had to get the front legs, if they couldn't bend over enough, and the therapist would approach them from the back and get their back area. But we exfoliated everything. The face, the feet, everything. And so,
What kind of salt?
good question. You can use, you don't have to use highfalutin salt. You can just use Morton salt. Some people will use, they'll use Epsom salt. Some people will use nicer salt. What did y'all use? Cannon salt, yeah. It just is. It's sandpaper is what you're doing. You're sanding off the, and so you put it. Explain how you do it there.
You take your salt and you put a little bit of water in it, so you get like a paste. Then you take a little bit and you rub it very, very vigorously. So you're like, you don't want to scratch them, but you want to make the arm or wherever you're going nice and red, because then you know that you're getting all the toxins out and the circulation.
Yes.
Anyway, so you rub it all over.
Exactly. You can put essential oils in it if you want to. But be careful with essential oils like pepper. Peppermint's a good one. Yes?
Can you do it with a person that are have kidney problems?
You can.
Okay, because they should not use salt.
Oh, it's outside, and you're going to wash it right off.
Okay.
So did they teach you to use essential oils?
They said you could.
Okay. Did they tell you a contraindication? If you use essential oils, it's really good, works good. But if, let's say the lady just shaved her legs, you're going to light her up. So don't use essential oils if the lady just shaved. Let's see here. So it just exfoliates the skin very well. All patients that came in got a salt glow. Everybody. And normally for our patients, just one treatment was good enough, except them ladies that didn't sweat. And the therapist would identify if the patient sweat or not as they were doing walking with them or whatever. And because we had an individual therapist assigned to every patient, and they did the massage for that patient, they walked with that patient, they did the hydrotherapy with that patient. Why do we do medical missionary work? What is the goal of medical missionary work? To point the sin-sick soul to Christ.
Amen.
We're all sin-sick souls. True? That is our job as a medical missionary. Every member of the church is to be a medical missionary. So that's all of us. Our goal is to point the sin-sick soul to Christ. When we at a lifestyle center, the person that had the most effect was a therapist. Why? They touched them. They prayed with them. They walked with them. They got to know them. Relationship. As they were hiking, and we would do 4 times a day. As much as an hour, 4 times a day if we could. At least 20 minutes, 4 times a day they were hiking. If they could do more, we'd do more. They were praying with them. They were talking with them as they were massaging. That relationship is huge. That's the person that pointed them to Christ the most effectively. It was. It's true. Okay, thank you.
So what do you do? Take a bowl, like of salt?
Pardon?
Do you take like a bowl or something?
Yeah.
Shower with you?
You can take a bowl or a bowl and just scoop up some, or Morton's little thing, and just pour it in your hand, put a little water in it, and then
It's with your hand, nothing else.
with the hand. So they do the area they can do, and then for privacy, and then you do the area that they cannot do. Yes.
How does that compare to the sugar scrub that's so popular?
Same thing. You can use sugar. Yes. Same thing.
So is brushing kind of the same?
They're the same thing. They're exfoliants. So brushing's another one you can do. Yes. We like the you can do the brushing, but as we've learned so much over the years, we're more worried about pathogens today. And so everybody would have to have their individual brush instead of using it from patient to patient and what all. Do not, okay, here's some contraindications. Do not, patient who cannot stand or sit. Okay, salt glow. Do not use when the patient cannot stand or sit. That would be, I would not have a problem doing a salt glow on a person who, I just wouldn't have a problem doing one in a wheelchair actually. But the standing in the shower, obviously not going to put them in the shower when they can't stand. But you can lay them on a table and do a salt glow and rinse them off. Here's the one that's a problem. Skin rashes, open weeping lesions or wounds. I mean, that's just common sense. But trust me, there's people out there that don't have any common sense. Well, he didn't tell me not to do that. You just wonder sometimes. Skin that has just been shaved, as we just talked about. Be careful there, especially with the essential oils. But even the salt glow, it can be a problem. So be careful there. Do not use essential oil peppermint in the winter time, as it will chill the patient, or can chill the patient. Be careful not to use too much pressure. It may irritate the skin, as she was saying. Don't press too hard. May dry out the skin. Using oil or lotion after the treatment can resolve this problem. And here's some different, cold mitten friction. Okay, girls, let's do another one. A cold mitten friction. We kind of showed you the cold mitten friction on the back there, but let's kind of show them. You can just sit here on the table, and we're doing it on the arm here. And where'd those go? We can use 1, 2. Where is a washcloth? Okay, good. Now, let me borrow a washcloth a moment. Thank you. Now, y'all ladies, you sew, don't you? Y'all sew? Okay, good. So, what you do is you take a washcloth like this, and then, help me here, hold that up. And then what you do is you cut here and here. Now, you don't have to, but it's a little nicer. And you cut it like a mitten. And then you sew this, turn it out, and you've got a mitten. And then all you do, did y'all use mittens? Put your hand in here, and you've got a mitten. See the mitten up there? And now that one has a thumb on it. You don't have to have a thumb. And it makes it so much easier to do the cold mitten friction, whether it's on the back like what you did before, or you can do it on the arm or whatever. I like just sewing that up here and here. Again, you don't have to have that to do the friction. So show them how to do it without it. Yeah, that's it.
And it's just cold water. You go as fast as you can.
Just cold water. And what are you doing? Circulation, increasing circulation. Okay, stay there. Well, yes, please.
It was my understanding when I was learning how to do this
Yes.
particular thing that you have these white blood cells in your skin,
Mm-hmm.
and that actually stimulates that. You increase your white blood cells.
That's exactly right. You're increasing white blood cell count and increasing circulation. You're doing both. You're exactly right. Yes. Here's things it can be used for. Don't do it on fractured limb. Again, that's just horse sense, y'all. Someone's got a broken arm, don't do the cold mitten friction. Malignant tumors, chilling, so. Oh, here's one. If they're ticklish, be careful. Okay, ice massage. Did you do my ice massages? Okay. Do we have a cup?
Yes.
You got a cup? Great. Excellent. Okay, good. If you can show them how to do an ice massage. So what are they going to do?
Fill it with water, and you put it in
of like this, but she's getting it.
So you can hold it and you're not having to put your hand on the ice. You know?
It's a handle. And then wet it first before you go on the skin.
Right, yeah. 'Cause otherwise it's going to, burn. And then you take your ice and rub it.
Fast.
Circular motion on the area.
And then what happens? There's several different sensations come. What are the sensations?
Burning,
Stinging.
chilling, and
Yeah.
numbing.
And numbing. And once it gets numb, what do?
Stop.
You stop, yeah. It's great for let's say a person's got a shoulder pain, knee pain, and can use that for pain. What else? Is that mostly what y'all use it for pain? Or yeah, it's a great little tool. And it's called an ice massage. Yes.
So Ted had plantar fasciitis several years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was really bad.
Yes.
And it was in the dead heart of winter here.
Yes.
And we had lots of snow, and
Yeah.
he just went out and ran barefoot. And,
Yes.
Or walked barefoot in the
Right.
snow until he went through all those sensations, and it only took one treatment, and it was gone.
For good?
For good.
Wow.
Never come back.
That's tremendous. Great. That's good to know. I got plantar fasciitis last year, and one of my customers had told me that a teaspoon of trace minerals twice a day would work. But it usually took 1 to 2 months. So I went to a buddy of mine. He's a physician, and I said, okay, I want a definitive, what is this? He says, plantar fasciitis. I said, okay, that's what I thought. He said, let me give you a shot. I go, no, I want no shot. And in 2 weeks, it was gone. But that's great. Thank you. One time. Just go out there and walk around, run around in the snow until it goes numb. That's great.
I don't know if it helped that it was 20 below out in the
20 below. That's funny. Okay. So, do not use when chilled, aversion or sensitivity to cold, poor circulation. Now, why do we not want to use it on poor circulation? Like, let's say a person has neuropathy. Are we going to do their feet?
Can't feel it.
No, they can't feel it, and so they can't tell. If you're doing too much, you can damage the skin. Also, Raynaud's. We talked about Raynaud's yesterday. Poor circulation. You can't feel it. Or previously frostbitten tissue. You don't want to do it on that. Or, again, horse sense. Don't do it on a wound. Elderly or small children. If they're really elderly or really small, you just don't want to do it on those guys. Hot foot bath. Now, hot foot bath, that's the foundation of hydrotherapy. Yes? That's the foundation. Okay, how do you do a hot foot bath? Probably need to have her sit on a chair. Oh boy, that's not how you do it. Okay, and so what she does is she will, again, touching is so important. Touching is so important. Again, ladies to ladies, men to men. And so by setting that foot in there, you're touching that. Christ touched people, yes? And so you're touching, laying there, and so that hot water. So is there contraindications of putting people's feet in hot water? Pardon? Same as before, yeah, if they have neuropathy. So this is a great treatment that's done in China. If you have let's say that I came to your house, and what you would do is before I turned into bed, you would bring to the room a basin of hot water. It may even have Epsom salt. But you bring it to the room, and then I would do a hot foot bath before going to bed, dry off, and get in bed. It calms the person down. In China, they do that for themselves, and they do it as hospitality. Let's do one on headaches. Works really good for migraines. I was in Bermuda, and this lady that I was doing, it was an evangelistic series, and I was doing the health component. I'd met this lady. She had come was coming to the meetings, and it was Sabbath morning, and it was church. And we were leaving, And everybody's getting on going on. And she was sitting about where y'all ladies are from Africa. About where y'all are. And everybody's walking out, and she's sitting there with her head between her legs in the chair. And I went over and I said, "Are you okay?" She says, "I cannot move. I cannot move." She says, "I left my migraine medicine at home." And so I got two ladies to come over, ladies and ladies. I said, "I need a basin of hot water, a basin of ice water, and 2 washcloths." And so they came, and the ladies had prayer with her. One put the feet in the hot water. The other one did the washcloths. And so we want a washcloth to the forehead and a washcloth to the back of the head. Here. There you go. Or you can do... There you go. There you go. It took 20 minutes. 20 minutes. And the lady goes, "It's almost totally gone." She says, "I can go home and drive now." Amazing. Isn't God good? Yes.
How hot?
As the water, as warm as a hot bath. And so we...
Not hot water.
Hot water. Like a hot bath water.
Okay.
Like a hot bath. And we did take out some water and put some more hot water in it probably halfway through. And then we did every probably 3 minutes, dip this in the ice water and put it back on. I was at Doug Batchelor's church, his old church there in Sacramento. And we were doing an evangelistic series with ASI. A man comes in one night, and he could not go to the meetings. He met me there. I'd been doing the health talks. And he says, "I have the worst migraine I've ever had." He says, "I can't even think." I said, "Well, let's go." So we went back to the kitchen. We did this for 40 minutes, right at 40 minutes in that neighborhood. It was gone, totally gone. I saw him a number of years later, and he introduced me to his wife. And he says, "This is the guy I told you about that had helped me when I had the worst migraine I'd ever had." Isn't it cool that God can help people with such a simple little treatment such as that? Now, notice here, the Asians know how to do it. Look at it, they've got, sitting here. I guess they can worry about infection control there, but they're sitting there. Okay, let's do a hot and cold. Now, what if she had diabetes? Can you do a hot and cold foot bath? That's right. A lot of places will tell you you cannot do a foot bath on a patient with diabetes, with diabetic neuropathy. You can do it, but not hot and cold. You can do warm and cool and have good benefit. So nothing over 100 degrees. Again, textbook's 103, but I'm more cautious now, 100 degrees, and nothing colder than 70. No, not hotter than how much? 100. Not colder than 70. 3 minutes hot, 1 minute cold. And so bring it on over. There you go. So you've got your and here, come on over here. There you go. Yeah. And so she can just go from there to there. There to there. Back and forth. 3 minutes hot, 1 minute cold. 3 minutes hot, 1 minute cold. If they don't have circulation issues, you can put ice in it. It can be ice water if you want it to have a good contrast. Not a problem at all. And so that's a hot and cold foot bath. And when you finish with cold. And I do it 7 times. And you can do it more than once a day. You can do it multiple times. You can do it like you're doing the fomentations 4 times a day. You can do it as many times as you want to do it. Yes, ma'am.
When I was a missionary in Korea, most people, they know that, especially the ones that are in the countryside.
Asians know it.
Like the old people, and actually 80, even though they're almost 90, they're still farming themselves like hand, not tractor.
Yes.
By themselves, and they're so strong. All of them, they just do that.
Yes.
They have a sauna.
Mm-hmm.
All their sauna had different types of cool and the coldest, and like that. Every once a week they go to the sauna.
Mm-hmm.
That's what people do. It's very cheap. It's only $4.
Mm-hmm. In Russia, They will go in a sauna, and then they'll go out in the rolling snow, come back, go in the sauna, go out and roll in the snow. Some people would go and jump in ice water. I made that mistake one time in college. We'd get in the sauna, and the guys we'd take the bathtub and fill it full of ice water. And so ice water is, what's the temperature? 32. If it's ice water, it's 32. That's how you measure. In the kitchen, if you have a kitchen thermometer and you want to identify your kitchen thermometer and make sure it's accurate, and so usually once a day or every couple of days, you'll recalibrate your kitchen thermometer in a restaurant. You put it in a cup with ice in it, and you let it sit there a little while. And once it starts melting and you got stabilization, you then put your thermometer in there and you make sure you got your 32 degrees. That's 32 degrees. Well, so what we would do is we'd stay in the sauna as hot as we get, then we'd run out and jump in the water and go underneath and stay under as long as we could and come up. What a shock. I mean, I said, guys, you can do that. I'm not going to have a heart attack or something. But they do in Russia. And also in Russia, they'll take a willow and whoop their back. Yes.
They call that the polar plunge up here.
Yeah. I know my wife is from the Adirondacks and up near Lake George, and my father-in-law said the people were crazy. They would on New Year's morning, they would go out there and have some big social thing, and jump in the ice and water and come back. Whew. You got the contrast bath, which is the hot and the cold that we just did. The neti pot. Who's done a neti pot? It's a great little tool. I had a good friend. His name was Dr. Sines. He was a dentist. He never got an upper respiratory infection his whole career as a dentist. Every night he would go home and he would use the neti pot. In India, they'll use the neti pots for nasal irrigation or nasal hygiene. Just like we brushed our teeth this morning for oral hygiene. In India, they'll do this each day for nasal hygiene to clean it all out. Yes?
What they used before they had the pots?
Oh, I can tell you what Dr. Kellogg used. He used an enema bag. You just had to make sure you wash the tip off real good. But yeah,
Use your hand?
you could use. Oh yes. Oh, that's funny. So I'm out in Crazy Town. San Francisco. I'm in San Francisco. Wow, they're crazy. So I go down to the water, and I'm down I went down to where they had the big guns to protect San Francisco. It's this big area of concrete where the guns were set to protect during World War II. So I go down, I'm walking down, and I had kind of an upper sinus thing going on, and I walked down to the salt water and I snorted in, and this couple, typical hippie folks from California, come over to me. Hey man, what are you doing? And I said, I'm cleaning my nose. I got some sinus problems. They go, oh, we thought you had some way of getting high or something to be cheap. But you're right. You can do it with your hand. I like going out to the ocean, just going out in the ocean and snorting it up and blowing it out, snorting it up, and that'll clean you out real good. But so what you'll do is you put 8 ounces of water in there, and so you want to make normal saline. Normal saline is a teaspoon of water to 16 ounces of water. A teaspoon of salt to 16 ounces of water, a pint of water. So we're doing 8 ounces here, so it's a half a teaspoon, but you might as well go ahead and make the whole thing because you're going to do the other nostril. So you'll take a pint of water, a teaspoon of salt, shake it up really good, and then pour half of it for one side and half of it to the other side. The key is keep the mouth open, because if you close the mouth, the venting changes and it can go down your throat a lot easier. So the mouth open, it vents better to come out the other nostril.
Is there special
Sea salt works good. I like sea salt. Yeah. You can. I've used Golden Seal tea. A person have a real bad sinus infection. I start with a salt. If that doesn't work, I've used Golden Seal tea before. Now, who's heard of Thomas Jackson, Dr. Thomas Jackson? Yeah, okay. Jackson will put a teaspoon of blackstrap molasses in there. And he's been able to get rid of nasal polyps by using blackstrap molasses. Yeah.
What about charcoal?
Pardon?
What about charcoal?
I've never used charcoal in the nose. I don't know. Never tried that one.
Done it with the syringe.
Pardon?
Did it with the syringe before we knew about it.
Yes, and Kellogg, he talked about using syringes, and he said you have to be careful. Now, this is how long they've been doing it. They were using syringes. Some people were using syringes back then. He said you can use a syringe, but be very careful because it can damage the eustachian tubes, he said. So he would just use the enema bag and just hang the enema bag, let it come around, come up, and go through. And so that will work. Just something to hold that fluid. The enema's hydrotherapy. It's a great tool. Did you know that an enema can be used for hydration that a person cannot hold fluids in? Sure can. If you have a patient that cannot hold fluids and you're out and there's no ability to do IVs, you're out in in the bush or somewhere doing medical missionary work, and you don't have the abilities to get intravenous, you can take you can take an IV bag, take the tip and shave it a little bit to where it's more like your finger, kind of curved. Put some type of gel, insert it in the rectum, but don't turn it wide open. Use your roller ball to where it has a slow flow, because you don't want evacuation. You want to retain that in your colon to absorb it, because the colon, one of the major jobs of the colon is absorb water, absorb fluids. And so that's a great way to get fluids straight into the patient. And Kellogg loved using enemas to get teas or things to them, because it didn't go through the digestive tract and get damaged or broke down by the hydrochloric acid. Yes?
What about coffee enemas?
Good question. What about coffee enemas?
Is that good? It's a main, like you said, the colon really absorbs.
It does.
So it would absorb the caffeine.
Doctor, do you remember Dr. Gershon? Okay. His daughter Charlotte, and we had a very long conversation on this. And we were out at a medical convention out in California. And she believed everybody should have a coffee enema every day. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with enemas every day. My great-grandmother, she graduated from nursing school along with her husband, my great-grandfather, in 1913. And he went to work with Kellogg up in Battle Creek. She stayed in Chattanooga. And in the teens, in the 20s, in the roaring 20s, before Depression really hit, the highfalutin women in Chattanooga, it was a fad to get an enema every day. So grandmother would do that. But what she said was, Granddad told me this because she had died, so he told me this. He says, don't do an enema every day, because she then had to still go and do the enemas because peristalsis stopped. Peristalsis depended on enemas. So with that knowledge, Mrs. Gershon's, maybe that's why she then says you got to do it every day, because of peristalsis, but she thought a coffee enema would be good. But there is a benefit. A good friend of mine, Dr. Kobos, he had a family member that had cancer, extreme pain, and morphine wasn't touching it, and she was kind of zonk out with the morphine. And so Dr. Kobos went to Tijuana and was trying to learn some cancer treatments. Ms. Gershon taught him the coffee enemas, that it can help with pain. He went back, and they started doing the coffee enemas on the grandmother, she was able to discontinue the morphine. And it did, because the pain was, it relieved the pain more than the morphine. And then her alertness, which she was kind of zonked out and didn't have that time for the family to be with her at those last days. So that cleared up, that the family, they could communicate better. So there's a benefit for pain on that kind of, it's better than using the morphine. Yes, it's used as a liver cleanse. I don't use it as a liver cleanse. I use a different one. But it can be used as a liver cleanse. I just try to stay away from coffee. But
You can use Feline
for this,
for the liver.
and that will work the same way as an enema?
Yes.
Great. The root or the leaf?
The leaf.
Excellent.
Because it's not strong.
Yes, that's good to know. Excellent. So do you do just one, does one treatment do it, or do you have to do multiple treatments?
It depends on what you're using it for.
Okay.
If it's Kirchheimer's or that, probably daily until they subside.
Yes. Okay, that's great to know. No, thank you. If a person has cancer and we're doing Podiarco this week, I like using an enema of Podiarco. It's going to absorb that way also. And so only for therapeutic do I like using the enema. Okay, so we've got about, let me go back here. We've got about 20 minutes left for question and answers. I figured it was more important to continue. And there's other hydrotherapy, it's just, these are basic ones. Yes?
Let's say for a patient who have someone who is really highly impacted, is it preferable to do the enema via rectal or
A lot of times oral isn't going to move it. And so a soap sud, oil, vinegar. You can use a Fleets enema. Fleets is a lot, you don't have a lot of volume in a Fleets enema. But
isn't there one that where you would use the pressure from the back to kind of jet through?
you could try a colonic. Yes, or a, what's the other one called? You get the colonic, and then you have a Kalima. A Kalima board is also good to use. Yes, Kalima boards are a great tool to have that can also work for that. But putting soap sud in it is good to kind of loosen things up, or oil, like an olive oil or something in there. Yes, because a lot of times when they're just plumb stove up, it just doesn't work from the top as well. You got to go from the bottom. Yeah. Questions? Yes, ma'am.
You're just talking about a Kalima board.
Yes.
What is that? Is that outside or do you use it inside?
Okay, good question. So a Kalima board is a board that is, it's about this long, and you put your head on this end. This end sets on the toilet, and it comes up between your legs. It has a hole in there that you put a plastic tube that goes into the rectum. And so as you evacuate, it catches it and goes out a hole that's in the bottom of the board. You can set this end of the board on a chair in the bathroom. And so you're laying there, and then your buttocks is here, your legs are here, and you get you a 5-gallon bucket. And you hook it into the bottom of the 5-gallon bucket. That's your pressure from the 5-gallon bucket. And then it just goes in and it irrigates. It's not, I don't believe it's and again, I'm not an expert in this, and someone may argue with me, but I think a colonic is more effective. But this is a tool that you can do at home and not have the colonic machine, and that machine's a little more highfalutin, does, I believe, a little bit better job.